Hi everyone, I'm Reverend Tripp Gullidge. I'm thrilled to join you again as we continue our daily journey through Deuteronomy. How many of you have ever swallowed your chewing gum? I know I've done it a fair number of times. I wonder if you, like me, were ever taught as a kid that if you did that, it would stay in your system for 7 years before it would make its way out. Like it was just going to get stuck in your body, and it would take 7 years for it to make its way out and be returned to the earth, if you will. I don't know about you, but that always kind of was a head scratcher for me. And as a first, second, third grader, as I was swallowing chewing gum on a pretty regular basis, I absolutely could not imagine the consequences of my actions that would come into effect 7 years down the road. I did have this epiphany when I was like in 8th, ninth grade. Oh, I guess it's about time. It's been 7 years since the height of my chewing gum swallowing habits. Maybe it's time for all that to make its way through my system, right? Well, God is the type of being who does think about consequences 7, 50, thousands of years down the road. And we will hear about that in today's passage. Today's passage is from Deuteronomy 15. We'll focus mostly on verses 1 through 11. You can read the whole chapter if you like. If you haven't read it already, I'll invite you to pause and join me again when you have. So here in Deuteronomy 15, we learn about something called the sabbatical year, which is not just for professors or preachers, but for the whole nation of Israel once they enter into the land that has been given to them. We've already heard in Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus about the Sabbath day once a week, and even that thing called the Jubilee year, which is like the Sabbath of all Sabbath years, every 50 years. It is this occasion on which God calls for people to hit the reset button so that no one gets stuck in a situation out of which they cannot pull themselves, right? If someone is lent money, their debts are to be forgiven every 7 years so that they do not find themselves socially and economically stuck or immobile. If someone were enslaved, they were to be released no more than 7 years after that period began, so that they would not find themselves socially or economically immobile. God calls for this reset button to be hit every 7 years and the super reset button to be hit every 50 years because God is thinking about the consequences of social, economic, personal, collective actions way more than 7 years down the road. A lot of times when we study Deuteronomy, we talk about making the right kind of choices that will line us up with the way of goodness or life as opposed to the way of evil or death. But the other side of that coin is usually an invitation to think about what kind of people we ought to be based on what kind of being God is. I know that Alex has told me a lot that one of the goals in walking through Deuteronomy is to learn about the character of God. Of course, the necessary consequence of studying the character of God is to ask questions and make decisions about the character of us. So there's this interesting passage here in Deuteronomy 15 where the people are commanded to be open-handed, not tight-fisted, to give liberally, not to be hard-hearted. And we're given this kind of bodily posture language to describe what kind of people we are called to be. We're even told we can't think, oh, it's year 5. I don't want to lend that debt because I'll have to, I don't want to make that loan because I'll have to forgive it in 2 years. We're even told that is not okay. We are not called to be uptight people sitting on the edge of our seat just waiting for a chance to earn something off of our neighbor. We're called to be chill, open-handed, soft-hearted, generous givers. Think about Santa Claus. Santa Claus doesn't sit hunched forward looking all anxious with his fists closed up. He's looking chill, hands open, ready to receive the children, welcome them, talk about what they could be given. This is such interesting language, I think, about the people we are called to be. Open-handed, soft-hearted, generous givers. If we can do that, then we will join God in the important work of hitting reset, making sure nobody finds themselves stuck in a situation that they just can't get themselves out of. It can be hard. We are not often encouraged in today's economy or working world or social world to think about the consequences of our actions a week, a month, a year, 7 years, 50 years down the road. But those things do matter. So that is why God invites us to press the reset, whether we keep Sabbath every 7 days, whether we try to find our own way in these times of living out a sabbatical year, whether we forgive debts of our neighbors, whether we even pay it forward in the drive-thru. It's a pretty accessible way. No matter what we're doing, we find ways to be open-handed, soft-hearted, generous givers. So, I wish you all the best as you continue your journey through Deuteronomy, as you continue finding ways to cultivate a life where the fruits of the Spirit can flourish, and as you continue forming yourself into the open-handed, soft-hearted, generous giver God has invited you to be. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you back here again soon.